Well, to our male panel, Chris Minns joins us, the 41-year-old Princeton University graduate, father of three, a candidate for the leadership of the Labor Party in New South Wales. I don't believe it is proper to canvass details about that tonight, but I will seek some clarification. And Damien Tudhope, who did splendidly last time he was with us here. He's the Minister for Finance and Small Business in the Berejiklian government. Chris Minns, thank you both for your time. But Chris Minns, to you first. You might just outline to our viewers what is happening in relation to the leadership. Am I right in saying that by Friday, each of the potential candidates, that's you and Michael Daly, must have 15 caucus votes for your candidature to go forward?
Yeah, a bit of a complicated process, Alan, but you're right. Nominations open on Friday. We've got 3 days to deliver 15 signatures to the returning officer. And if you get 15 signatures, you go to the next round and the party members decide the vote. So, look, I'm putting forward myself, as I've said, as a positive opposition leader focused on the future of New South Wales, and I hope my caucus colleagues come behind that, but it's in their hands.
All right, Damien Tudhope, what would your party and government be thinking if this man became the leader?
Well, I suppose I don't have any say in that, and it's the business of the Labor Party who they choose to be their leader. But there are some things that Chris has had to say which I do welcome. He promises to be a positive opposition leader if he's elected, and that means that he doesn't engage in negative campaigns. And I welcome that because earlier this week we released the Productivity Commissioner's report. It had 60-odd recommendations for the future of New South Wales in terms of improving the lot of most New South Wales citizens, and I'd welcome working with Chris to make sure that we implement most of the recommendations made by the Productivity Commissions.
Now, Damien, working with the citizens of New South Wales, let me tell you what I believe would be the perfect gift to a new Labor leader. Are you seriously suggesting that after more than 150 years, where the Catholic Church and other faiths have buried their dead, kept their graves respectfully, and offered comfort and solace to grieving families, that the Berejiklian government, via Minister Pavey, are going to steal, they call it takeover, all cemetery administration and put it in the hands of a costly government bureaucracy? Do you expect anyone to believe that a bureaucracy would know anything about caring for the dead, to say nothing about caring for graves? Damien.
Well, I put it on this basis, Alan. This is primarily the portfolio of Minister Pavey, but I don't resolve from having a view in respect from this. There is no doubt that religious people have the greatest interest in looking after people at a time when they die. I think that's a generally accepted given. However, the government does have a report which does indicate that there is at least 3 of the current trusts are unfinancial and are not able to be fit for the future, and one which is
the government also gives a ringing endorsement.
And if you let me come to that, Alan, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And in fact, the report does say that the only operator of trusts at the moment, which in fact is efficient, does make provision for the future. It has got a vision for buying new cemeteries. It has perpetual care obligations, which it acknowledges and has made provision for. So of all the trusts that you could identify, the Catholic Cemeteries Trust is one that you could identify as having the greatest skill.
Correct. So your government is going to steal everything that they have and give this all to a bureaucracy. Chris Minns, the Catholics, as you most probably know, have sought an injunction to prevent this happening up until June 11. Maronites, Muslims, Jewish, Christian Orthodox and Buddhist communities have expressed strong support for the retention of the Catholic Cemeteries Board. Surely, Chris Minns, this is brazen arrogance of the worst kind by the Berejiklian government.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's obviously deeply worrying, and I think that you've seen real concern from Damien Tudhope tonight, who's a minister in the Berejiklian government. He's clearly signalling that he thinks something's gone wrong here. The government's really got a problem because they could potentially put in danger $500 million of bequests over the next 10 years that would grow the lot and enable cemeteries to expand if they go ahead with this proposal. And of course, the Catholics have said repeatedly now that their concern is that there could be private sector development on cemetery land, and that land could be turned over by this new state-owned government trust.
There are some people.
There's real concerns about it.
there are some people that want to dig up the graves for development. Damien, you know better than anyone that Gladys Berejiklian can be a very, very stubborn woman. Sometimes that's good. But this is politically diabolical. Are you aware that these people have met with the Premier and Minister Pavey? Undertakings were given by both women that Catholic cemeteries would form part of any future model. That was indicated personally by the Premier. I'm going to ask you a blunt question. How do you feel about your colleagues lying?
Well, I think it's unfair to characterise it in those. So I think any minister and any government is obliged to take into account and the stakeholders who they are obliged to look after. Now that should be the starting point. I would have thought that the minister would have had extensive negotiations in relation to who is the best administrator of the trust going forward. If in fact you say there are five and we want to make one, you would say, right, which one's the best? Yeah. And you would potentially then go to the Catholics and say, you know how to do it, and invite them to do it. But
Damien, they both had discussions with Pavey and with Berejiklian and their staff, and they were assured that the Catholic Trust would stay intact and the Catholics were the best people to run it. But after the by-election in the Upper Hunter, suddenly that offer was withdrawn. Chris Minns, have you heard anything in corridor gossip that there's a bit of an agenda here?
I've heard a lot of corridor gossip, not necessarily about this one.
No,
Alan,
but nonetheless,
look,
I mean, the report identified the Catholic cemeteries as the most efficient, affordable, multi-faith operator with the strongest balance sheet and financial model with a superior strategic plan to address the looming burial land shortage. They got the lot, the Catholics, but now they're being tiptoed out, eh?
And look, if they've entered into good faith negotiations with the New South Wales government, honestly, I think that should be honoured by government ministers. That's certainly the suggestion around the place. I mean, you're not talking about dealing with rapacious property developers. It's the Catholic Church, for goodness sake. So I think that the government needs to put a pause on this, go back to the negotiating table, talk to the Catholic Church. Let's get a landing on this. We know that these church groups are going to take care of and foster and protect this important land into the future.
And I agree with that entirely. I agree with that entirely. And I just would say this. You indicated earlier, Alan, that there were some further negotiations arising from an injunction or whatever, and I don't know what the status of that is. But let the negotiations continue along the lines that you've outlined already to say, well, who is the best operator along those lines? If you're handling your stakeholders.
Damien, this hasn't been discussed widely with I happen to know. This hasn't been discussed widely with Cabinet. It hasn't been discussed widely with the backbench. What sort of government are you running? I mean, the report recommended the Catholic Trust play an ongoing role in the management of cemeteries, working with multi-faith groups. Now, look, men, we have run out of time, but I will say this to you, Damien. This is political dynamite. The man sitting over there now could be the leader of the Labor Party come Friday. He's no mug. He'll actually make mincemeat of this issue. You've got to try and get some common sense into your government.
Good. And I just use this and obviously say good luck, Chris.
Okay. All right, Damien, thank you for your time. And Chris, yes, good luck on Friday to Chris Minns.